Okay. All right, it's now recording. Today is May 17th of 2017, and today is Wednesday afternoon, and we are in Ocala, Florida. The purpose of our being here today is to interview Mrs. Edwards, Mrs. Thelma Edwards, a longtime resident of the Ocala area, and she has many, many things to share with us today. Now, Mrs. Edwards has a few guests here, and Jalen is going to talk with her first. He is a Vanderbilt student, incoming junior, and a great writer. And we also have Mrs. Lillian Lattimore from Gainesville, and we also have the mother of Jaden, and his mother's name is Mara, M-A-R-Y-A. So we make sure we get that correct. Latson. And I'm Sherry Sherrod DuPree from Gainesville. Jaden is going to start by asking questions.
First of all, I'm glad to be here. My first question is, how did you really handle this whole tragedy? Because you were younger than I am now at the time. So how did you process this when it happened?
Well, I was 24 years old, and my father had come up to Chicago to preach a funeral. And him and another nephew decided they wanted to go back with him. My aunt, who is my mother's sister and Till's grandmother, discouraged him from getting a motorcycle. And she said, "Why don't you go to Mississippi instead?" So when I heard the news, I was in church in Argo, little town where I grew up, little blue-collar town, 10 miles from the Loop, if you know anything about Chicago.
Yes, we know where the Loop is downtown.
Yes. And I was in church on a Sunday, and they announced that 2 men had come the night before and took Emmett away. And the church stopped everything. And they prayed. And I cried. And I cried. They said they put him out. But it was just something about it that I couldn't stop crying. And I could not eat at all. I would take one swallow and I would just fill up. I wasn't hungry. I couldn't eat until everything was over the following Saturday, I believe. Everything was over. And I was able, Stouffer's, a restaurant chain in Chicago, gave the family free food after the burial. And I was able to eat for the first time. And I lost 10 pounds in 1 week. I was 24 years old.
What was the name of the church that you were in?
Oh, the church in Argo?
Yes.
Argo Temple, Church of God in Christ. My nephew, who was there in money, is the pastor now.
And his name?
Wheeler, W-H-E-E-L-E-R, Parker, Jr.
Okay, well, who was the pastor when this situation happened?
All right, Elder Benny Goodwin.
Yes.
Was the pastor. And by the way, his son, Benny Goodwin Jr., led him to the Lord.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Shall I explain that now?
Yes, please. No, go right ahead.
All right. After I graduated from high school, I lived with an aunt for a while, my mother's oldest sister, Aunt Mamie.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived with her sister, Willie Mae Jones, on the west side of Chicago. And then I wanted to go back to school, so I asked my aunt, Jill's grandmother, if I could go back and live with Mamie so that I could go to school. And she said yes. So I would go back to the little church, back and forth. And on Wednesday night, 7 ministers from Moody Bible Institute had a practical Christian assignment. And they missed supper at Moody. So they would take turns in Argo, Illinois, this little town, preparing lunches for them.
Yes.
And Benny said to me one night, and on the way back, I'd always see Emmett. We called him both.
That's right.
And I said, Benny said to me, you know the little boy that you talk to all the time? I said, yes, that's my cousin. Then he said, you know, he accepted Christ last night. So he was just ready and waiting. So after this, I didn't tell anybody, but after he was killed, I told my aunt. And she was happy.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
I believe that it was in the obituary.
Was it like a Bible study, or what type of program was at the church that night?
They came every Wednesday, and I had choir practice on the same night. And that's how I met my husband, too.
Oh.
Yeah. They taught the boys the Bible, scriptures, and they had recreation. Because my husband was teaching them how to march, and I thought that he had been in service, but it was ROTC. And fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know which one, but I thought he was older. Had been to the service and everything. But I found out he wasn't. But I guess it didn't really make a difference.
Yes. So Emmett had received the Lord before he went down to...
Yes. My mother said he was an example.
I hear you. I hear you well. So was he the only one to receive the baptism at that particular time?
To accept Christ, that's the only one that...
At that particular night?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, wonderful. And how old was he at that time?
14, and I was 24.
And you were 24.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. The second concern that we have, again, would you explain how Emmett got to Mississippi from Chicago?
My father took I believe at that time it was called the City of New Orleans. I believe that's the train.
That's the train. That was a train.
And he overslept and missed the train.
Oh.
My father, I believe, took it with we call Willard Jr. Took it with Junior downtown at Union Station.
Yes.
And maybe told Emmett, Bo, to walk through until he saw Uncle Louie. And that's what he did. He walked through and saw him.
And so he caught the train and carried him to Mississippi.
Yes.
Do you know where he got off in Mississippi?
There are several places. I'm not sure. The train stopped at Grenada, Greenville.
Greenville, yes.
I'm not sure exactly which stop, but I can always find out.
That's okay. And now the town that your father was in was called Money, Mississippi.
Yes.
Yes. And Money, Mississippi was an agricultural area.
Right. Plantations.
Plantations.
I wasn't born there.
No, okay.
I was born in, actually I was born in a little place called Slaughter. Schlater.
All right.
I would pronounce Slater.
Slater.
On my birth certificate, they have Doddsville.
Okay.
Sometimes, however you got your mail,
Yes.
whatever route, they would put that on your birth certificate. And they moved to Money's after I left.
Okay. So how old were you when they moved to Money then?
Well, when I left, I was sent to an aunt in 1939. I was 8 years old. And it was kind of a traumatic experience for me.
I can imagine.
Sent from a cotton field. I didn't pick cotton because I was a babysitter.
You were too young.
Yeah. I was the babysitter. And I'd get up in the morning. It was kind of lonely. I had a younger sister, and then there was a baby. When I would get up, they were gone already. I think that's why I love the rain. Because when it rained, they would come home early.
Oh.
And I remember once, I went home one summer. I didn't go home every summer. But I went home, and it rained, and we were sleeping on a pallet on the floor.
Yes.
And my mother cooked the fried corn, which I've never gotten enough of.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Hot biscuits.
Yeah. Oh.
And she let us sleep, and then she woke us up. So I just love the rain and thunder.
I hear you.
I think that's why.
Jen?
So, did you spend a lot of time with your cousin down in Mississippi when he was there, or was he doing other
No,
things?
he was, somehow some of the information is mixed up. I read something where they said Emmett was taken to Chicago when he was 2 years old. That was his mother. My grandfather migrated to Chicago in 1925. And most of the grown-ups on my mother's side, they went also. But I have first cousins still in Mississippi on my father's side. But distant cousins on
Yes.
my mother's side.
Yes.
Most of everybody went with their families and they went with them.
Is there a reason why they chose Chicago and not New York or?
Well, you know, if you look at the map, it's cross migration. Because you see Mississippi and straight up you see Illinois. Now, my mother-in-law was from Greensville, South Carolina, where Jesse Jackson was born, was from. And they went to Pennsylvania. And who else went to New York? A lot of people. Most of the people in the Chicago area were from Mississippi. They call
That's
it
right.
Big
It was a
Mississippi.
straight migration pattern.
Yes,
That's
they
right.
call it Big Mississippi.
Big Mississippi.
Yes, and if they weren't from Mississippi, their parents were. But my husband used to tease me all the time because he was born in Chicago.
Okay. I want to go back a little bit and have you talk about your parents.
Okay.
Your mother's name,
Elizabeth Smith.
Elizabeth Smith. And tell me a little bit about Elizabeth Smith. Who were her siblings and who were her
Oh, I
parents?
should bring out that, I meant to bring out the book. I have a little, almost like a pamphlet. But anyway, my mother was born in 1900, the same year as Queen Elizabeth.
All right.
She was a teacher, and my mother loved to read. She educated herself. She used to talk about Thurgood Marshall,
Yes.
and I had finished college, but I didn't know who that was. I would let her know, and I was thinking, who is that man with that funny name? And she would talk about the Secretary General of the UN. I didn't know we weren't taught, but my mother read a lot. And she loved recipes and cooking. There's a paper out of Memphis, Tennessee called the Commercial Appeal.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and that's what, every Friday there was a section on cooking, recipes. And my mother would read it, and we were always excited. So when Mama died, she had a pocketbook of recipes. Some were yellow. And my husband didn't like clutter, but he wouldn't throw those away. He was afraid to. My mother died when she was, I believe, 6 years old.
Her mother died.
Yes. She was a slave of my grandmother, who I never knew, was named Lula. Of course, her father was a slave master.
What state were they in? Where were they located?
Mississippi.
They were in Mississippi?
Yes.
Do you know the name of the plantation?
Hazelhurst, Mississippi.
Hazelhurst. Okay.
Yes, that's down in the south. But later on, they moved to the Delta, to the good farmland.
Yes. Yeah, the rich farmland. So do you know
My
the
mother, let's see, there were 3 girls, and then they had 3 boys. And my grandmother died. She was very young. She died. I don't know exactly the age. My grandfather met Clara Chess. He had 6 children. She had children. They got married, and then they had children together.
Yes.
They were 14, about 14. And of course, we call my grandmother Big Mama. And she was heavy and light skinned. And I thought all grandmothers had to fit that
That same.
picture, yes. And she fussed a lot. And Mama said she stepped out on the porch and looked up to heaven and said, "Dear God, please make Mama hush." And she said, as soon as she said that, my big mama said, "I'm gonna hush. I'm gonna hush. I ain't gonna fuss no more. I'm gonna fuss no more." So that stuck with my mother, because that happened as a child. But when I researched and looked back, I said, well, I can see why she fussed a lot. She had children, my grandfather had children, then they had children together.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot going on.
14 kids, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's exactly true.
Half, whole, and step.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay, and so that was on your mother's side.
Yes, then she had 3 brothers.
Okay.
So that means my grandfather had 3 girls and 3 boys.
Mm-hmm. 6.
My mother was, the first was Aunt Mamie, who Little Mamie's named after. And then there was Mama, Elizabeth, and Alma, Emmett's grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you'd like to see it, but I can run and get a picture of.
Well, we'll get the picture at the end. We'll just go ahead, and then I will take a copy of the picture, yes. Uh-huh. Now, on your father's side, who were his parents?
All right. William Wright
Uh-huh.
and Ann Southhold. And he was 2 years old when his mother died.
Oh.
And he said that all he can remember is saying, "Mama, I saw a snake." She left a baby, Uncle Jack. I got to meet them because before I left home, the Mississippi River would rise. And I remember my father saying levee. I didn't know what a levee was.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, when I hear the word levee, it's almost frightening. And he said, "Oh, I hope that levee don't bust. I hope that." He would send us to the youngest brother, Uncle Jack, in the hills. And we would stay there. He would keep the boys with him. At that time, everybody was gone except the 2 boys and 2 girls. Then we had 4 more children to be born. But we go to Uncle Jack every year. His mother died when he was 2 and left a baby. And his father said, "I'm not going to remarry because stepmother would be mean to my children." But he was gone all the time. And he would come in and say to the oldest girl, Martha Lou, say, "I don't want no meal sifted. I don't want the fire in the stove, but I want my dinner." And if she didn't have it, she would get the whipping. So my father was kind of strict because he never had a mother.
Yes, I can see
Really
that.
wanted to be kind to him. In fact, the Sunday before I left, I went to his church in a place called Dooleywood in Mississippi.
Yes.
And I was shocked that they knew me. My father had talked about me. I just thought, well, my father barely didn't know who I was. That's the way I felt. But I found out
He knew you well.
Yes.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Well, thank you for going back and covering that early history. It's so important to understand who your parents were and how they got to where they were. Thank you so much for that. But we want to go back a little bit. You have some pictures on the table, and one that I wanted to mention was dealing with the Russ Warren Award.
Yes.
This was for your father, is this correct?
Right. He
And I'd
wanted
like
me to have that.
Yes, and I wanted you to kind of hold on to that so we can get that on the film. I believe it was in the 50s. I forgot exactly which year that picture was made. That award. And tell me a little bit about the award, because I don't know anything about this particular award.
Oh, this was 1956, and everything happened in 1955.
Uh-huh.
All right. It's the National Newspapers Publishers Association Russ Warren Award.
Mm-hmm.
It is proudly presented to Moses Wright in recognition of outstanding achievement in making possible a richer conception of democratic principles, and in tribute for upholding those highest traditions considered as the ideals of the American way of life. I don't know the people who signed it.
I see. Did he get that award in, where did he receive that award? Was it in Chicago or?
Well, it was after they moved north.
After they moved north and,
Yes.
and he moved to Chicago.
Yes.
I see.
Well, I always
Thank
say
you.
Chicago.
And it's called the
but it's
Russ
our home.
Warren Award.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
They moved to a little town, but by that time I was gone. Harville.
Yes. Uh-huh.
There's a big starch plant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It says the National Newspaper Publishers Association Russ Warren Award. So the newspaper companies gave this to your father.
Right.
Okay, thank you for
And
sharing that.
My dad made a lot of trips to speak at the NAACP, and they raised a lot of money. And my son tried to get the tapes, but they said they didn't keep it.
I see.
They marveled that he spoke without.
And I want you to hold this. This is a picture of your father. Uh-huh. And about how old was your father when this picture was made, you think?
My father was actually, this was shortly after everything happened. And the men asked my father, said, how old are you? He said 64. He said, if you know us, you won't live and be 65. But through the census, he did get his birth certificate. And he found out he was a year younger.
Oh.
I said, that must be nice to find out he was a year younger.
And what was his birth date? Do you remember?
April, well, I'm not sure if it's April 8th or 9th,
Uh-huh.
but I have my youngest granddaughter, her birthday is April 8th.
I see.
But he was born in 1892.
1892. This is a very nice picture. Thank you for sharing that as well. And then as your family grew, we have a picture of you and your two children and your husband. So I wanted you to turn that one around and name the people that are on your picture.
All right, that's my husband. People always say they look like OJ. But when President Obama was running for presidency,
Okay, I'll tell you, pull that around a little bit more. I can't quite get that.
this,
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that we can get a shot of that picture with her. All right, so that's your son. And name them again. Okay, we got a good shot now. Wonderful.
shall I point or just?
Just go right ahead and point.
This is the oldest son. He was here for 4 years, but he didn't like Florida.
I see.
He's 58 in August.
Uh-huh. And what's his name?
Ozzie. Edwards
Ozzie Edwards.
The third.
The third.
My
All right.
husband was Ozzie.
Uh-huh, the second.
And I raised 5 children. This is my youngest son, Timothy,
Mm-hmm.
named after one of the presidents of Yale University, Timothy Dwight.
Okay.
Yes, my
Uh-huh.
husband named it. And I just received my Mother's Day card today.
Oh, wonderful.
Saying, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. I raised his 5 children,
Uh-huh.
and that's how I got to Florida.
Uh-huh.
Because there's a boy-girl twin. The boy was 8 years old. He wasn't coming home from school, and he was taking things out of the stores. They wanted to put him in a special school.
Mm-hmm.
His father had lost him. Father and mother had lost them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted my brother to take him. The brother that was there when Emmett was in bed with Emmett.
Yes.
But he didn't know about it. So my mother-in-law said, send him to me.
I
So
see.
she was here, and that's how I got to Florida.
Oh, wonderful.
He's 29 now. He was 8 years old. And he said he thought he was going to Disney World.
Oh, and he was coming to stay with you
He was coming to stay with my mother-in-law here.
in Florida.
And I came to get him.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here ever since.
This is beautiful. So you pretty well covered your family. We have one other picture here that I wanted you to explain to us. This is a smaller image, but it's a very clear image. We have to get it on this side. Jayla, hold it on that side, yes. Uh-huh. I think you said Mamie was in the center.
Yeah, that's my mother.
Oh, that's your mother.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes, my mother.
Give us her name again, just so we have it.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Smith. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's Elizabeth.
Yes.
And
And
then
there's Mamie, Emmett's mother.
Till. Mhm.
Yes. And that's, I remember she told me that this was, they had evidently appeared at the church.
Uh-huh.
And I can't recall their name, but it was a minister and his wife, and that's Brother Isaiah.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, Isaiah
And he
Roberts.
traveled with them, so,
Oh, okay.
yes, he did.
Uh-huh. Excellent. Thank you for
I
sharing
don't
that
have too
with
many
us.
pictures of my mother, but there's two in Jet magazine. Do you know Brenda
No.
Vereen?
Brenda Vereen in Gainesville? Brenda Vereen.
She's here, but yeah, she's here.
Oh, I know. She's in Ocala. She's an archivist. Yeah, she worked with my husband at the school.
Well, she
Yes.
went with me last year to Chicago to the 61st anniversary of Emmett's death.
Oh, she
We stayed
did.
a weekend. And my niece has a Jet magazine from 1955. It has a picture of my mother greeting my father when he came up from the south.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a picture of her serving him cake. She took the picture, but evidently she's forgotten.
I
So
see.
when I see them for the family reunion
Uh-huh.
in July, I'm going to ask someone to take that picture again from me.
Yes.
I don't
And
have
where's
to
your
do that.
family reunion going to be held in
It's
July?
going to be, last 2 years it was Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee.
I see.
I have cousins there that I didn't even know about. It's going to be in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
near Chicago.
Yes, that's right.
I
Uh-huh.
can't think of the city, but I just received all the information.
Uh-huh. All right. So you'll be traveling there. That's wonderful.
And I usually take my great-granddaughter.
All right. So she can be exposed early.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Jalen, do you have another question?
I was gonna ask, growing up, would you have considered yourself or your family, active in the civil rights movement, because it was kind of picking up sway back when you were coming up? So would you say you were, or your family were rather involved in any sort of fashion?
Well, I would say, once I was grown and married, my husband, he was a minister, a graduate of Moody Bible,
Mm-hmm.
from the pastor's course. He went around and spoke a lot. Yeah, remember, there's a little church that Billy Graham pastored in Willow Springs, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him to speak. He finally became a little discouraged, and he said, I'm going to let these white folks alone and try to get to heaven myself.
I hear you.
But
Mhm.
I traveled with him many places
I hear you well.
that he
Uh-huh.
spoke.
Well, now, can we change the subject just a wee bit? I wanted to know if you were familiar with gospel music, and
Yeah.
I think you were.
Well,
Yeah, and I wanted to know if you knew maybe even some of the gospel greats, such as Mahalia Jackson
oh yes.
and Rosetta Thorpe.
yes.
Well, which one would you like to talk about first?
Well, Mahalia Jackson, what can I say? She was finally on TV, and we had all of her records.
Moving on up a little bit higher, that
Yes,
sold over 1
yes.
million copies. Yes,
Yes.
uh-huh. She was on Atlantic Records.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I have a few, but it's not of her.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they're important or not, but
Oh, they would be,
I
yes.
looked out and saw a couple of them in the yard.
What?
Yeah.
But let's see if we can find those.
Yeah.
Because the 1947
But
is when
they're
she
not
sold
of
a
her.
million.
They were of, I think I have one by Nat King Cole.
Okay.
'Cause when he used to sing,
He had those Christmas
Chestnut,
chestnuts falling, yeah, at Christmas
and I
time.
didn't know. I used to say, "Oh, why can't he sing it like the others, like Bing Crosby?"
Mm-hmm.
But now I love it. I mean, I grew to understand it,
Yes.
and I love his rendition.
Yes, I do too. Mm-hmm.
And I remember Albertina Walker.
Oh, you knew Albertina?
I didn't really know her personally, but
Uh-huh.
living in that area,
Yes.
every Sunday night there was a lot of churches. Oh my goodness. A lot of gospel music.
And you get to hear her sing. How about the Martin singers? Roberta Martin.
Oh yes, yes. I've been away so long, some of it I've forgotten.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Oh yes.
uh-huh.
Shirley Caesar.
Oh, yes, Shirley Caesar, yes. Now, see, she was with Albertina Walker at one time.
Yeah.
Then she broke away and started her own.
Oh.
Uh-huh, yes, yes. She was a teenager when she was with them.
Did you know that the churches in
Well,
Reverend Cobb, the churches
you knew about
Yes.
Deliverance Church? Tell me a little bit about
Yes.
Deliverance. That was Reverend Cobb, yes.
Yes, he said the same thing every Sunday. He says, makes no difference what you think of me, but it does make a difference what I think of you.
Okay.
Every Sunday, so you knew it.
Yes. How about Mr. Goodpastor? He was the musician at Reverend Cobb's church.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew
I
him.
didn't know him
Uh-huh.
by name, but we
Well,
used
you
to
heard the
listen.
music. Because, see,
Yes.
Reverend Cobb's group went to England every year and to Germany. I don't know if you knew that, but his choirs travel the world.
Oh,
And that was long before most churches even thought of their choirs doing that.
yes.
Well, Reverend, yes, he did. And then he had a radio program
Yes, that's what we listened to that night.
on Sunday night.
Sunday night, Reverend Cobb. Who else? Oh, a church that they didn't believe in speaking in tongues, but they believed in righteous living. My mother was in that church at first.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was called Church of Christ Holiness.
Church of Christ Holiness USA?
Yeah, I think it's Church of God now.
Church of God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
My mother was the first one to speak in tongues in her family.
Wonderful.
Yes, and then my father was Methodist,
Uh-huh.
and he became a minister, and I don't know how he came to know the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I never heard him say it.
I see.
But I know my mother he was a visiting elder speaking, and my mother met him there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your father was Methodist first. So how did he get into the Church of God in Christ?
That's what I never heard him say.
Never heard him say
But I
that.
heard him say that he felt the call to preach, but he ran from it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that sometimes he would see a big jaw or something bearing down. He had a very lovely gift of visions.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He said he saw this happening, this Till case, 20 years before it happened. He was in trouble with some white folks, and it was a muddy river. And the closer he got to this river, the smaller it became until it was a stream, and he stepped over it.
Wow.
So when people told him not to testify, he testified anyway. He said, they killed the little champ.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing they can do to me but kill me.
Yes.
So he came. Oh, and one night my father could not sleep.
Mm-hmm.
He got up, went down to the church, slept in his car, and 2 o'clock in the morning, a black man passed by and saw 2 white men with flashlights going through the house. They came and killed him. But they passed themselves off as reporters.
What they doing at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my father was like that. And he dreamed when I was born. I've heard him tell it. My mother was very fair, and Thelma was born a year before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And he told everybody, said, I saw a little dark girl. And I remember that's before black got so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little girl. I would say to myself, I'm not dark.
You're pretty.
But, now I'm pleased that I know God made me this way.
Yes, yes, indeed.
But he had a wonderful gift. And then he didn't register for World War I. They came and got him. And the youngest, Uncle Jack.
Oh.
Put him in Jackson, the capital,
Mm-hmm.
40 days. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, were you afraid? He said, no. I had a dream, and I knew how it was going to turn out.
So he didn't go to war. They just kept him in jail.
They told him, they said, right, there's no law to make you kill, but there is a law to make you serve. If you registered, it would be all right. You go on back and we'll call you. But they never did.
I see. Now, how large was your father's church? I mean, I know it was in Money, Mississippi, and probably in the rural area. So did he had some very good members in that church?
Oh, yes. Sometimes they would pay tithes with, but I learned this when I would go back. Because when I left, they weren't in this money.
Yes, yeah.
But I would go back maybe every other summer. I went back once and stuck a splinter in my right. I still have the scar, right foot going barefoot in a room and with a wooden floor.
Yes.
I stuck that splinter. Something came out, but the rest stayed in all summer, and it set up infection. And when I got back to Illinois, my aunt took me to the doctor, and he said, "It's a wonder that you didn't take lockjaw and die." So I said, "Oh, you're not going back. You're not going back." Because the last time I was home was in 1953, 2 years before this happened.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you have not been back to Mississippi since 1953?
Well, I was there when my boys were teenagers. We went to a camp right outside of Jackson, Pearl, Mississippi.
Yes, I know where Pearl, that's the black town.
Yes.
Oh, I've been to Pearl.
Okay.
Yes.
You probably know the Bingham's.
Oh, I know them well. I spent time in their
Maurice and
house.
Ann?
Yes, I stayed with
Oh
them.
my goodness, it's a small world.
Yes, small world. Oh, yes, they've been so kind to me.
I graduated with Maurice in the pastor's program from Moody. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yes, yes, I know the Binghams.
She calls me, but I'm not a phone person.
Well, I've spent time with them, and she's got quite a library in her home.
Oh,
The Church of Christ Holiness USA. Oh, yes, she had a whole area. Yes.
And she talked about, what's the singer's name?
That was C.P. Jones was the founder.
I had a songbook, and I gave it to Mama. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that would have been precious.
I went to the original church when we moved to California.
You did. That was when C.P. moved out there and set his church up there.
Yeah, he was dead, of course, but I was a member there.
Oh, you were?
Maurice and Ann and my husband and the little boy. He was the oldest little boy.
So
I
you
picked up him.
were with Church of Christ Holiness USA. Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah, I went to the original church. Yeah.
Now, he passed in 49, Bishop Jones, C.P. Jones.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah, he passed in 49, but he had a minister that was very prominent there. His name was Washington. I don't know, became a bishop. They said he was the first one that he had a radio program and it went across the Rockies and you could pick it up over in Mississippi and other parts.
Okay.
And that meant it was a powerful station. And it was special at that time because we didn't have services that would go that far. And people could hear him on the other side of the country. They thought it was the other side of the world, which was on the East Coast.
What was his first name?
I'll get it for you. I don't have it with me right
It used to
now.
be in the back of our Sunday school. I started Bishop Mason.
Yes.
My great uncle named his first child Mason after Bishop Mason.
And you know there were so many kids named Mason, and they said they were named after Bishop Mason. A lot of people named the kids Charles.
I didn't realize that.
And I said I was going to do a statistical search to see how many names that I could find.
Yes. So I went, let's see, my boys were 17. I was in Mississippi. Then in 1953, and then I was there 4 years ago to the family reunion. And my brother took me all around the house, and all this happened. They tore it down, rebuilt it, and the boss man, Mr. Frederick Grover, his relatives lived in it. A storm came through and blew the house and killed them.
The whole family?
Yes, I think it was just a man and a wife. Yes.
And
I saw where it was,
yes.
but it's no longer there.
So this was the property where your family had its home,
Yes, where Emmett was taken from.
and the people that took over the property, they were the boss men of the.
Yes, but not the people who
Did the killing.
caused the trouble. And the boss man was a Christian. He let my father sell his own cotton.
That was unusual.
Yes, very.
So your father was a tenant farmer,
Yes, yes.
and
Plantation.
did you ever work in the cotton fields?
No.
One summer I went and my father said, if you pick 100 pounds of cotton, when you go back to school, I'm going to give you $5. I tried my hardest. I only came up with 60 pounds. But when I got ready to go back north, he gave me the 5 anyway.
How kind.
Your
And one of
effort.
the white men said to my dad, I saw your daughter born with the hole backwards. See, it was fun to me because I didn't have to do it. But I was mostly the babysitter. I was one who taught my little brother to sing Flatfoot Flutie.
I know that song.
And he was singing and he said, bop, 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 and boy, boy.
Sing a little bit of it.
Well, all I know is Flatfoot Flutie with Floyd Jordan. I can't remember
The other parts of it. Now tell us a little bit about Bishop Mason, C.H. Mason, the fellow that founded the Church of God in Christ.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know it was in Azusa.
That's right,
California.
Azusa, California.
And they all met and they said the fire fell.
That's right, the fire fell.
Bishop Mason, I'm trying to think, did they put him out of something?
They put him out, yes.
Yes,
See, they were
because he-
Baptists. Uh-huh.
Yes,
He and
yes.
C.P. Jones were together.
Yes.
And then they had separated from the Baptists, put them out.
Yes.
And then they became holiness and sanctified.
Right?
And then when Bishop Mason came back from Azusa Street,
Yeah.
he had the fire. That meant that he had been able to speak an unknown tongue, glossolalia.
Yes.
And CP would not accept it. CP Jones would not accept it. So that's when they separated.
Yeah.
And they separated by not giving the right hand of fellowship. And so when Bishop Mason was put out, several of the men went with him. And then Bishop Mason started the Church of God in Christ. That was 1907 when that occurred. 1907. Azusa Street started in 1906.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
There was a little blurb in the back of the Sunday school
Uh-huh.
when I was growing up.
Yes, yes.
Now I'd like to know, since I know you are a musician, can you remember?
I'm not a musician.
Well, can you remember some of the songs that you used to sing when you were
But
growing
you know
up?
what? They have a lot of new ones because after I married, I was going from the 65 Baptist Church. You know, I knew Freddie Price.
You know Frederick Price,
Yes.
the pastor in
You
California.
knew Frederick Price in California?
Yes,
Yes,
you know
I've been to his church. I was there in 06. It was the last time I've been there.
Ralph Bell graduated from Moody with my husband. He went with the Billy Graham team. So whenever he was away, he called on Freddie to substitute.
All
And he
right.
was down to earth. He would read most of the manuscript, friendly, kind of reserved. And it was Christian and Missionary Alliance.
Yes.
That was the name of the church. So they stayed there 12 years. Then they moved to California. I'm sorry, Colorado. That's where they are now. And he's the only black person that I know arrived in Canada by way of the Underground Railroad.
By the way, the Underground Railroad.
Yes, his great, like my great grandparents.
Okay, well, let
Did you
me
open that one?
let me go back to some of the songs because that's history for us. And you just now mentioned that we sing different songs now, but we want to know what they sang back when you were younger in the church. So, can you remember any of those songs?
All right. I'm a soldier. I used to like that.
How did that go?
You know, I'm black, but I can't sing.
Well, that's right. Just give us a
But
little
boy, I
bit.
have rhythm.
Okay, well, let's hear a little bit of it.
I'm a soul. Oh, I have to explain later on about my throat. I have
Okay.
more of a voice. But I had
Don't cover the microphone because we want to get it.
sorry.
We're going to share the load.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a soldier
In the army of the Lord,
You know it?
I'm a soldier. In the army, I'm a soldier. In the army of the Lord, I'm a soldier. In the army.
I believe I died. I think sometimes they even made up.
Oh, they made up words as they sang. That's right.
And then, just another day that the Lord has.
Oh, yes, do that one for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
You do it. Start it off. We'll come with you.
It's a slow song. Just another day that the Lord has kept me.
Just another day
that the Lord
has kept me.
He
Has
has
kept me.
from all evil with my mind stayed on Him.
Just another day
that
the Lord has kept me.
See what else?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Lord, keep me with a mind.
Oh, I don't know that one. Let's hear that one.
Okay. Lord, keep me with a mind. Stayed on Jesus. Oh, Lord, keep me with my mind.
Stay on John.
I think it's Lord.
It's
keep me
just
with
with
my
the mind.
Stay on Jesus.
Jesus.
Hallelujah. 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 Okay. Now, when my father came up and Emmett went back, the man, that was his favorite song. Actually, it was my sister's father-in-law, Brother Joan. That song was his favorite song. And they left Mississippi and went to Culver, Michigan. I think that's sort of a black settlement. Yeah. Let's see, what else? Oh, have a little talk with Jesus.
Tell him all about our trouble. Hear our faintest cry. Answer by and by. Hear a little prayer we're turning. Know that the fire is burning. Have a little talk with Jesus makes it right.
I thought they
Oh,
were
say
saying
you have a little talk with Jesus. Tell him all about our trouble. Hear our faintest cry. Answer by and by. Hear a little prayer we're turning. Know that Lord is burning. Have a little talk with Jesus makes it right.
Now, how would you compare the music of then to the music that the church sings now? Do you think the founding fathers would think it still follows the spirit that they believe God would want us to know?
Well, first let me tell you how I feel.
Okay.
I miss those old hymns and
I do too.
songs. And my son in California, they continued to sing the choruses, the gospel song, but every Sunday they sing a couple of hymns. And I would like to do that. And some of the old songs that every now and then they'll break out one in my church. And I could almost just shout. Because it means a lot. I know we're doing a lot to attract the young people, but I think we should go back some of the old.
I agree.
Well, now, can you remember any of the songs that were sung at Emmett Till's funeral? Do you remember any of those?
No, I don't. I guess I wasn't paying too much attention. I was still in shock.
Who preached the funeral? Do you remember who preached his funeral?
Bishop Ford was there, and also Bishop Roberts.
Robert. Oh, I don't know who preached this funeral.
That's okay.
Was his mother there? Were you with
Oh
his
yes,
mother?
Mamie was
I
there.
wasn't with them.
Who were you with?
I was there with so many people, all of us, we were there. My mother had come up. Well, my father wasn't there. He didn't come up. My father decided to leave when he heard the men were exonerated, right?
That's correct.
And a cousin in Greenwood said, tell Cousin Mo they turned those men loose. And my father knew he'd better get out of town. They said they sold everything, even the dog. And but my mother left the night it happened and went to her brother in, I think it was in Sumner, Mississippi. Yeah. And he said, my father used to tell my mother, I'm going to make one more crop, and then we're going north. Because she married at 25 the year my grandfather left. And Mama always wanted to go, but she was married and she had to stay there.
Yeah, that's right.
My father said, one more crop. So he said he knew that she wouldn't want to stay there. I said, see if I can think of some more songs that we sang. Oh, I heard my father say, I came home one summer and they had a sort of revival, and my father said he loved that song, I Need Thee.
Oh, I need
I
thee.
need thee.
Every hour.
Every hour I need thee.
Oh, yes.
So it reminds me of my father now. Yeah.
I need thee. Oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
Now, remember, this was an old song. You're probably too young. Old song, where the flowers are blooming forever and the sun will never go down. They sang that at my grandfather's funeral. I was there, but I don't remember him too much.
I don't know.
1936 he died. And they sent Mama a telegram. And she had it, I was on one side, my younger sister on the other. She walked up and down that porch and I said, Mama, what's the matter? Your belly hurt. But she never answered. He died from pneumonia. Because they said the germs multiply so rapidly, they couldn't arrest it like they can now.
Yes.
And my husband's grandfather died from pneumonia. So I guess it took a lot of people out.
Now, when he died in 1936, where was that? Where
In
did he?
Chicago, he had the funeral at Robert's Temple, same place that they had Phyllis.
And this was, again, your
My
mother's father.
Yes. I didn't really know my father's father, Billy. They call him Billy William Wright. Yeah. Let's see, I didn't tell you, my father had, it was Martha Lou, Mary, Arthur, Moses, Will, and Jack.
So there were 6.
Yes. One went to St. Louis early, and so I have relatives there, and I don't know.
I see.
Yes, St. Louis.
Now, I have a question for you. If you, who has been a teacher and someone who's lived a good long life, could give any words of wisdom to our young people today, what would you tell them, Mother Edwards?
First thing I would say, stop killing each other.
Oh, thank you.
Stop killing each other. I try to explain to them some of those feelings and things that we have. It came from slavery. I try to explain to them, be kind one to another. And stop devaluing education. We're doing that now. It's not important. It's not important anymore. They refer to a smart person as a nerd. Stop devaluing education. There are some students that I work with this year. So I don't care. If they don't know, I don't care. I said, but you should care. It's so important. I said, you need a GED or high school diploma and work at McDonald's now. I have to explain this to you before you leave. My grandson had a pig. You see the little thing was, they took him and killed him Sunday. It's been one big, okay. The third thing is, well, I should have said first, cling to the Lord. I should have said
We
that's
understand.
first.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, then if you do that, you will stop the killing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, now, Mother Edwards, you talked about being a teacher, and I'm familiar with some of the children that you are familiar with. What kind of advice would you give to parents to help their children do better?
I'm fighting this in my own family. Spend time. Read with the children. I don't see that in my own family. And I used to read to the grandchildren and go to sleep. I was so tired. But not on my own too. I would go to sleep reading. They're not reading. They're not teaching them their tables. They don't know 7 and 7. You know what I'm talking about? They
Yes,
don't-
ma'am, I know.
They need to spend more time, but people say it's bad now because a lot of them are young. And it's like children raising children.
Right. And I have another question. You mentioned earlier that I believe your grandparents were slaves, or your
My
great-grandparents? Your
great-grandparents.
great-grandparents were
And I
slaves.
had a great aunt. My father's sister, Aunt Irene, was in slavery for 10 years. But she was so mean, but maybe because of that.
I was going to ask you, did you ever get to meet any of your relatives that had been enslaved?
I met her, but I can't remember her. So, Aunt Irene, she never married, so she lived from brother to nephew, and she lived with my mother. And she said to my mother, "I don't know what I'm going to do when you go to Chicago," because she couldn't pronounce. She lived. My mama wouldn't bother her, but when she lived with Uncle Will, she would hide her clothes so that her niece-in-law couldn't wash them. So I said, maybe I tell you what she did as a slave. She held that, sometimes they'd have a long train on the dress.
Mm-hmm.
She held that up. And she said she got tired of holding it, so she let it go. And said a lady picked her up and spanked her. So I said, maybe that's why she was hard to get along with.
But now she had bitterness in her heart. But as we listen to you speak, we listen to the timbre of your voice and your mannerisms. You don't sound like you have a bitter part anywhere in your body.
I wrestle with it and ask God to forgive through me. Yeah, I've been through a lot. Like I was telling your son, I lived in 7 states. Encouraging, my husband was a professional student. He became a Harvard professor, but I got left out at the end.
Your husband became a Harvard professor?
Yes.
Harvard University in Massachusetts?
That's why we went to Boston. So I won't tell you the whole story, but I've had to really, sometimes it's an everyday affair. Because the devil tries to give you bitterness.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm hearing you are the great-grandchild of a slave.
Yes.
And you have what, how many degrees do you have?
I want to have a bachelor's and a master's.
She has a master's.
That is remarkable. Now, do you think that even your parents could have envisioned that you would have this education?
Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you why I was sent away. There were 2 older brothers. There were older ones, but they were all gone after my mother raised. My mother was a teacher, and she was. Shall I wait or continue?
Keep going.
My mother was a teacher. She was teaching them how to spell elephant and telephone. I wasn't in school, but I could remember. So I spelled them. And my brothers weren't, maybe they were just fooling around, because the one that's still alive in Newport News, Virginia, he could run rings around me now. But that's how they got the idea that I should go north and go to school. Now, I taught myself how to write. When I went into teaching, I had to go and take up manuscripts. I never did it. When I made the two, I would stick straight down, I put a loop on the top and a loop on the bottom. But they felt like it was unfair to have me go, and a younger sister didn't go, so she was there for 3 years. Yeah.
How did they finance it?
I was living with an aunt, but she charged my father $100 a year, and he paid it for me to stay there, and I was Cinderella. I washed all the dishes. At that time, you sift the meal. Anybody remember that?
Yes, I know that.
Yes.
You sift the meal, you sift the flour. I wasn't taught to cook, but I remembered so many things. My first apple pie, I made a glass of jelly, because that's what my aunt did with the peeling. But I cooked mine a little too long, so it was more like candy.
Tasted good, didn't it? Was it
Yes.
sweet?
Yes.
So your education was financed still by your father's hard work in the fields of Mississippi?
I went to a state school.
Oh, you went to a state
It
school.
was very inexpensive. I wouldn't have been able to go.
Well, now who paid for that?
Chicago teachers, I guess I must have paid, yes. When I went away, I had a little job making 75 cents an hour.
That was a lot of money.
That was the wages. And my rent, I was able to go away and stay with an older lady in DeKalb, Illinois. I don't know if you've heard.
I know where the cabin.
Yes. That's where Miss Berry's son is. I believe, because in Rockford, it's not too far. But anyway, rent was $7 per week. And I went there for 2 years. That's where I graduated from. That's where I got my master's. 12 years later. My father had 2 masters and a PhD. But like I said, I lost out in the end. I won't go into that. Money-wise.
But you're still alive.
Yes.
And you don't have any bitterness.
No.
So you still won. You won. And
I guess I did, but I didn't.
you didn't
I
see
could
it
use
that way
some
at
of
the
that
time.
money. But some of that is my fault. I really should have divorced him
But that's okay.
after 32 years.
Now you talk about your children. Are they still around?
Well, my oldest son came. Actually, he came to teach the boys, they have dyslexia. He came to teach them how to read, but they didn't accept it too well. They have dyslexia. I didn't meet the other grandfather, but they said he had dyslexia. It was a problem in school. My son came to teach them. He was here almost 4 years. We used to pray a lot. He's a strong Christian. He just didn't like it. He was looking for a wife at that age. He didn't find a wife. He didn't find a job. He has MS, multiple sclerosis.
Yes.
So, and he didn't like teaching. He was a TA when he was working on his master. So he's been doing security work and tutoring.
Now you play the piano, don't you?
Well, let me tell you about that.
Yes, because we like music.
When I was a little girl, someone died. A little girl named Irma, 12 years old. And my aunt knew them in Mississippi. And they moved to the same little town. The pianist played the piano all during that time. And my aunt said, oh, that's so nice. She entertained that funeral with the piano. So she started giving me lessons. But the lady moved that was giving lessons. It was a CME. They had a CME
And A and E.
Yes.
That's right.
And Shallow Baptist and Church of God in Christ. 4 churches in 1 block. No, our was not very big. So the lady didn't come back. Finally, another lady came, Miss Walker. I went home that summer. They were waiting on me. Oh, Emmett was born on the first recital that night, July 25th, 1941. My aunt said, I'm going to call Cook County Hospital and see what Mamie had. She left. And I played this little piece called On the Swing. I went south. They were waiting on me to come back for the recital. When I came back, my uncle said, did you hear about Miss Walker? That was the piano teacher. She had her garter removed and went to, her sister said something that was funny. She laughed, went to laugh and choked to death within minutes. So we had this big old upright and I was afraid to touch the piano for a long time. So I didn't take music anymore. They didn't want me to go to Chicago. That was a big bad land. Nobody else came there who wanted to teach. So as a teenager, I got back into it. Then when I met my husband, I told him that I was taking it. I didn't tell him I was, tell him what level it is. He said he took it at Moody and he practiced so many hours. And they said, did you practice? So he felt like he just didn't have it. I don't have any talent. If you want a hymn, give me a week and I'll play for you. Now, I don't have talent like you do. But when I moved to Pasadena, the lady taught me how to count. And the notes, she gave me a good background. Then when I went to Boston, the lady there was a graduate of the New England Conservatory
Of music.
and she knew everything that they taught her. So I was able to study under her, and then she taught me into taking students. So I started off with 5. I'm still taking piano from her, so that cut down my practice. So but I got to see the world.
That's beautiful.
They traveled. I went to Hawaii, Barbados, a couple times Jamaica, Acapulco, where else? Texaco. We went through Puerto Rico. We went, oh yes. You have 2 vacations in Boston, a winter and a summer. The winter's in February, you get a week out. Detroit has the same thing, but you don't get paid for it. It's the same fuel. But we'd stay in the States when the winter. Hershey, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
places like that.
The chocolate place.
Yes.
Now, if you had to play a song, what would be your favorite song to play?
Moonlight Sonata.
Oh, mine too.
that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's my
So
favorite.
you like classical music?
Yes, if you're not like most all, but I'm not too crazy about rap.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah, I'm from the old school. I'm not too crazy about rap, I tell you.
We're gonna get ready to close. Do you have anything else?
I just had, my mom kind of asked this question earlier, but as one of the younger generation, and we have all these incidents in the news now, Trayvon Martin and all the people getting gunned down by the police. What is your take on these incidents that we see in the news? How do you see them?
I'm saddened by it. It's been going on for years, but I feel like now it's more exposed. We shouldn't have to tell our young men how to behave and respond to a policeman. But it's for their own good because of the way it's set up. And I know now the young people won't take what we took. It's a different era. Yeah. So I'm like, the young man that he's gone now said, can't we all get along?
Rodney King.
That was
Yes,
Rodney King, yes, out of
Can't we
California.
all get along?
Mm-hmm.
But since some of it's been exposed, hopefully we can work things out like they have the cameras now. Everybody aware of the injustice. So many. You know, I used to tell my boys, the two of us, they need to go out. You can just tell them to go out and stay. I used to tell my boys, you gotta stay out of trouble. You have a black face and you're not gonna have a fair trial. And my oldest son said, maybe it helps. He's never been in trouble. I can't say nothing serious. I can't say it about the youngest. Traffic citations.
Well, we want to thank you for taking your time this afternoon to talk to us, and I have just two more things that I want to get you to respond to. This is the body of civil rights era slain victim exhumed. This was exhumed in
2005.
yes.
That was her dream, Mamie's dream, to have another child.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the family was against it. I have some cousins.
Mm-hmm.
But of course my brother overruled. He's like the head. And they came away. Oh, the lady, you know, she's still alive.
Yes.
And I just went to Mississippi.
Oh, no, I didn't know
Tell you
that.
about that.
Uh-huh.
She's still alive. She asked for immunity. I found that out.
Okay.
And they wouldn't give it to her. Now, you know she recanted the story, right?
Yes, the 10 years ago.
No, she recently.
Oh, okay.
She recanted.
That she didn't ask for
That
it?
he didn't do anything. She said he put his arms around her and said some lewd, lascivious things to her. So they sent the FBI in to interview her. And you know, this white man Tyson is wrote a book.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know him.
Yeah. And he, so they sent the FBI, and she said she didn't tell Tyson that. She said she didn't tell Tyson that. So I know Tyson wanted still to make money. He sent my nephew the book. He did. My brother, when he heard that she recanted her story, he got kind of upset. He said, I've been telling him that he only listened for years. That's what he said. He didn't. Everybody was excited. No, but she said she didn't say it. So they're asking us, what do you want us to do? My brother said my brother couldn't, he's ill now. I was there, my oldest son, and Wheeler Parker, the one that was 16-year-old who was pastoring, he was there with his wife. So there was 4 of us. Then there, the man who co-authored the book with Mamie, he was there. Benson. But anyway, they said, what do you want? And we said, we want his name to be cleared for history. And they said, we don't know we can do that. So they ended up saying that we're going to try to get the tape and hear what see if she really said that he didn't do anything. Because my brother said all along, she could come on TV and say that she didn't say it. And that when the FBI sent a lady in, that's what she said. So the FBI, see, we flew to Memphis, then they picked us up and took us to Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss. I remember Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Out of curiosity, did they feel that his death was warranted if she didn't say it? Were they justified? I don't understand why was the dwelling on that issue, what she said.
It was.
It was based,
I know, they did it because they felt that it was an excuse just to kill.
Yeah.
But why I don't understand why was the focus on whether she said it or not. It didn't matter.
That's what
They
my
just needed any
sister-in-law
excuse
said. Yes.
to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody said, she's getting older now. During the trial, second trial, she kept saying, I don't know, I don't remember. Said she's getting older, it's on her conscience, and she's want to make things right. But I said to them at a meeting recently, I said that he had a stuttering problem. He stuttered. And my aunt would send him places, and he would say, he called her Mamu instead of Grandma or them. He said, Mamu, don't send me. He said, I can't talk good. Send somebody else. I said, he wouldn't have said that to a black woman. So the lawyer, the man that helped made me write the book, he was glad that I said that. And then I said this too. My father said, the white neighbor said, preacher, since this happened, I haven't been able to sleep. So if you told me that the boy was in trouble, I would have gotten him away. He said, there's nothing that a 14-year-old could do to me to make me kill him. And when they went in, they told Mama, light up this house. And I want you to get in the bed and make the springs cry. Mama said she was trying to go next door. There was a white family there. But when they left, they asked her husband, the white family, to go and try to persuade them to leave. My father said he knew that he had something to do with it because he left driving very slowly. But when Mama went over there, the lady said, she had teenagers. She said, load up those guns. Said, nobody's going to bother Lizzie. That's what they call my mother. You load up those guns. My mother left that night, and my nephew left that night. When Duck Hill, I don't know if you ever heard that. His people, uncles came, and they had their guns. They got him away that night. Yeah. But my sister-in-law the judge was saying the same thing. So what do they need to clear him? What did he do? Well, she couldn't understand it.
There was nothing that Till did.
Yeah.
But I think what I find interesting in today's society versus then is still the same. It's the conscious. It's as if people who do those things, who kill, who discriminate, they have no conscience.
Yeah,
But yet they go to church like we do. They do. They think that just speaking it makes it all right. I'm innocent.
Yeah.
They say I did nothing wrong. They say, but at the same time, they violated the law of God and the nation,
Yeah.
law and man.
Yeah.
But they can live with it. That is what puzzles me. And how discrimination could live through hundreds of years.
Yes. That's why I said,
That's
how can we
amazing to me.
call ourselves a Christian nation and enslaved a group?
No, we're not a Christian
for 200.
nation.
I don't even like to have them say that. How can we call ourselves a Christian nation?
Maybe it's something we aspire to,
Yes.
but we're not a Christian nation
Yes.
because we would not be so divided
Right.
as we are.
And they said my great-grandmother ran away, but she came back and they beat her. They said from 9 to 12.
In slavery, you
yeah.
mean slavery?
Yeah, I guess they beat her, maybe they stopped, I don't know.
Well,
That's passed down, that story was passed down.
right. But if you read some of the history of plantations, you would see that a beating for a female, particularly if she didn't have children, if she couldn't bear children, she was treated as a man. But then men should not have been beaten the way that they were beaten. But it happened. But we have not closed the book on slavery yet.
Right.
We're suffering a new kind of slavery.
Well,
It's a brand new kind of
Yes,
slavery.
it is.
So I don't know where we go from here, but oppression is still afoot. It's just different.
Oh, I was going to tell you, I've always been soft-spoken, but in 2000, I had a tumor in my, I think it's called a pituitary gland.
Pituitary gland?
Yeah,
Mhm.
behind the thyroid.
Mhm.
I had it removed, but they think the tube got too close to my voice box.
Mhm.
And sometimes I don't have very much voice at all. But fortunately, I retired in 94. I had a little more of a voice. So that's what I wanted to explain.
Well, we're straining your voice today.
Oh, no, it doesn't bother me. And I wanted to explain about these little I still have an extended family. Somebody told me it was way back over there, but that's where the flies have been leaving the doors open. You see they're tiny.
They're tiny.
I've heard that that's because of the pig.
What pig?
Oh, my grandson didn't ask me anything. He just brought the pig in. I said, why didn't you ask
The
me?
pig lives in the
Tell
house?
me. Oh, he's gone now. Sunday they took him and butchered him. But he was here for months. I said, why didn't you tell me or ask me? He said, it just came up.
The pig lived in the house with everybody?
No, they kept him in the garage sometimes. So he had a little pen back there.
Well, the last one is the one that I just kind of slid over there toward you. Uh-huh. And that was from the funeral of
Yes.
Emmett Till. And I think that was the overhead shot that was made at the church.
Right.
Right, yes. I'll try to get a better copy of that so we can keep it. All
The
right.
mayor of Chicago was there.
Oh, okay.
Maybe in later years she didn't know. He came, Mayor Daley, old man,
Oh, yeah.
and brought his 2 teenage children. And the son became a mayor.
That's right. He followed his father.
He was so angry. He was so angry.
Well, the thing is, they said that there were blocks of people. They
Yeah.
showed it in the magazines,
Yeah.
waiting to have a chance to go by to view the body. And they were fainting and just
Oh, yes,
unable to
I-
function.
I saw some. I think it was young. I didn't know whether he was faking or what. Young guy, white guy. Yeah, it was terrible.
Well,
Did you agree with having the casket open so people could
Oh,
see?
yes. Oh, yes.
well,
People
maybe
said
they
it
wanted
was
that
barbaric.
open. That's right.
I said,
No.
what they did to him was barbaric.
Yes, indeed. And the nation deserved to see it.
Yeah. They told my father was getting ready to bury it at the church. Somebody from up north was visiting and said, I don't think Sister Alma would want that. So he stopped. They couldn't get any black undertaker. They were all afraid. They couldn't get them to prepare the body. My uncle got a white undertaker with the stipulation that it would not be open. So A. Rayner in Chicago, they're still there. They said, you can't open it. And Mamie said, I'll get a hammer and I'll open it.
That's
I
right.
said, okay, all right.
You see, that is exactly what I was talking about in discrimination and oppression.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for those who discriminate to look squarely in the face of oppression. The oppression caused by them.
Yes.
You can't, it's difficult. As long as you don't have to face it, you can do it. You can stand it. But it's there. So open it up. Let everybody see.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she did.
I think that was the best thing she could have done.
Yes, because if they did not see that picture, I think it just made it worse, and they realized, a lot of people realized how they beat him. Someone was going to tell, my uncle was going to tell me, someone passed by and realized they were beating someone. And I said, well, what was he saying? my mother was there. This was not long after it happened. He went to tell me, and my mother couldn't stand it.
Mm.
She said, Thelma, she couldn't. And I thought about that while I was in Mississippi a lot. The beating, all that came back.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think another problem with discrimination is our sons and daughters don't understand it. And I think that in order for hate to live,
mm-hmm.
the opposing side has to teach it to their children.
Yeah.
It can't be inherited like genes. It can't be just automatic.
Right.
It has to be passed down.
Oh, yes, yes,
But through verbal
yes.
discussion
Mhm.
and taught to hate,
Right.
taught to oppress, and how to do it.
Well, we're going to take the time to say thank you. We have filmed for 1 hour and 25 minutes this afternoon, and we are in Ocala, Florida, at the home of Mrs. Edwards, and she has talked with us about many, many things concerning her life, concerning Emmett Till, concerning gospel music, concerning her love for music, and a lot about her family. And that has been wonderful to know that she was the daughter, she is the daughter of Moses Wright, the man who stood up in the court
Yes.
and said, "These are the men that came to my house and took my nephew."
I have one. The
Go right
first
ahead.
movie that came out, I have that. The man was in Boston. He gave me, I didn't like, it's called The Eyes on the Prize.
Yes, Eyes on the Prize.
One reason I didn't like it, they said, my father said, "Thar he." Thar he, when he pointed at the person that was guilty. I called Chicago to talk to him. I said, I don't believe that. And Simeon, my brother who was in bed with Emmett, said I was right there. Daddy did not say that. The gentleman heard that Emmett had a cousin in Boston, but he didn't know that I was Moses Wright's daughter. Because he said if he had known, he would ask me to come to the premiere, I guess, the showing of it.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I have that posted there, but I just didn't like that version. And something else happened that wasn't. I have a nephew who wasn't there when it happened, but went there later. He was 18, but he was big and tall, weren't they? And somebody gave him a gun. He said he wasn't afraid. He's in the movie, yeah, I believe. And he said he was playing checkers. That's all a lie. He's dead now, but he finally confessed. He was playing checkers. And said some man jumped up and said, "Your cousin is crazy." Oh, that's a lie. He wasn't even there.
And they added that to the movie.
Yes. I guess it came off good.
Parts of it was fiction.
But we're glad you're still alive to set the record straight, because you are someone who knew Emmett Till,
Yes.
you
And
knew
I was-
Amy Till,
Yeah.
and you knew everyone that was involved.
Yeah.
And regardless of what others may have recorded, the truth is now made known.
And I'll tell you how he got his nickname. When I came along, all the ladies worked in the suburb in Miss Ann's kitchen, so to speak. So a lady came up from the south, and my aunt, Emmett's grandmother, got her a job. And one day she came by our house with a bag of little boy clothing. And she said, "This is for little Bobo." So we never called him Emmett, we said Bo.
Oh.
Bobo and Bo.
And that's how he got his nickname.
Yes, that's how he got it. Just stuck.
It stuck. It sure did. Well, we would thank you for your time and energy and to go through all of this with us. And we will guard it. We'll take it back and get it reproduced Eventually you will get a copy. It will take a while because they got such a backup right now. But in any case, we'll get you a video. You have a DVD or whatever you want it in. We'll get it in that format so that you can sit and watch it. And maybe you can take it to your family reunion and share it with the family if you feel comfortable.
All right.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to thank you, and I'm going to cut the film. Anyone else have anything else they need to add? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
gave you enough to write it on.
No, I
Oh, he's
appreciate
going to
it.
have a wonderful article.
Okay.
Okay.
Glad you brought it along. We need more writers.
Well, we need to keep history connected to the present, so it's never lost for the future.
Yes, right.
Okay. All right.
Make
It's
sure we
off.
have her full name
Yeah, the
in-house.
W stands for right. I don't have a middle name. They won't give it middle name.
That's okay. And to make sure you know how she was related to Mrs. Till, Mamie Till, that
We're
was
first cousins.
your first cousin.
Yes.
So your mother and her mother,
Sisters.
your mother and her mother were sisters.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
She was an only child and he was an only child.
That's right.
And everybody called her Aunt Maggie. Our kids, because that's the way she was.
Okay, so your mommy didn't have any brothers and sisters.
Yes.
But her mother, did her mother have sisters? You said they were only child, so I'm
Well,
gonna make
Mamie didn't have any brothers or sisters.
sure. Mamie did.
And Emmett didn't. She only had the
Oh,
one
so
child.
she had one child.
Yeah.
And she was an only child.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I wanted to make sure we got that fully correctly understood.
Yeah.
So Emmett was the grandson of your grandmother's grandfather, through your mother. I'm gonna make sure, your mother, okay.
Yes. Yeah, my mom. On my mother's side.
But now there was two people named Mamie. Who were the two people that?
Okay, my mother's oldest sister was named Mamie.
Mm-hmm.
And Mamie was little Mamie, Emmett's mother
Mhm.
was named after her.
Okay, because I knew I saw two different Mamies.
Yeah, I really did a picture you could see.
Oh, yes, that's right. You said you were going to
Yeah,
get that picture.
Yes, right. Because I knew there was two Mamies, and that couldn't have been the other Mamie, so I needed to make that clear up.
And that's Aunt Mamie that was married to her husband's name was Thomas. Minnie Pearl's,
Minute.
they were sister-in-law. Bishop Robert's daughter, Minnie Pearl.
Yes, that was.
Yeah. I'll go this way.
You
It won't
just
take
put
me
some,
long.
not a
Let me
problem.
get this over
No,
here.
that's my grandmother. I never knew. That's Mama. That's Boo's Emmett's grandmother. That's Aunt Mamie. I'll go
Wait a
look
minute,
and see if I
I'm
can
getting
find
right
a
in front
picture.
of you.
Another picture. But you gotta big
And,
hurry.
Should I close?
Okay, now, name these people again, the one with the
Point,
white.
she wants you to come over and point
Who's
to
this
them
one?
and say who they are.
That's Aunt Mamie.
Mm-hmm,
Little Mamie was named after my mother's oldest sister.
all
That's
right.
Emmett's grandmother, Alma, that raised me.
Uh-huh.
That's my mother, Elizabeth.
Let's see, pull this back.
She
a little
told
bit.
me why she did her lip, and I can't remember. now.
Elizabeth. And then this
That's
is.
my grandmother. She was biracial slavery.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She
They're
didn't
all
live long.
biracial.
Yeah, she didn't
Yeah.
live long.
We're all biracial.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna go and see if I can find a big picture of her.
right.
Aunt Mamie
And then.
the
let's
Thomas
this one.
fellow.
Okay.
But I didn't know that you were related to Sister Edwards Stevens. How now? How are you related?
Got
Well,
married.
she was my flower girl. In a minute,
She was in your wedding.
Yeah, I could go
Okay,
show
so
you.
she is your blood kin relative.
No, she's my sister-in-law.
Oh, sister-in-law. Okay.
Actually, she was adopted.
Okay.
She's a great niece.
Okay. Yeah, do it that way.
Yes, yes, yes. This is going to be beautiful.
Yes.